2 goals in 13 minutes. That's all it took for Matheus Cunha to answer every question about his place in this Brazil squad. Before the World Cup, Carlo Ancelotti had a problem. He had Vinicius Jr. on the left and Rafinha on the right. Both world class. Both need space to run into. So where did Cunha fit? Most coaches would have left him on the bench. Ancelotti did something different. He pushed Cunha through the middle as Brazil's number 9. Against Haiti, that decision paid off in full. Cunha scored twice, set up Vinicius for chance after chance, and dragged defenders all over the pitch just by moving. Brazil won 3-0, and suddenly nobody was asking why he started. But here's the part most fans don't know. A few years ago, this same player looked like he was finished at the top level. Wrong clubs, wrong role, wrong team. He went from a kid Brazil didn't even want to the man leading their line at a World Cup. This is how Matheus Cunha went from inconsistent to world class. Carlo Ancelotti had a puzzle to solve before this World Cup even started, and after the Morocco match, it became harder. Vinicius Jr. on the left, Rafinha on the right, 2 of the best wingers on the planet. So where does Cunha go? The answer surprised a lot of people. Ancelotti pushed him through the middle, as the man leading the line. Now, normally a number 9 stays high, stays central, waits in the box for service. Cunha doesn't play that way. He drops deep to get the ball. He drifts wide when the space opens up. He links play between midfield and attack instead of just standing and waiting. Defenders never know whether to follow him or hold their position, and that confusion is exactly what Ancelotti wanted. This wasn't a guess from Ancelotti. He studied Cunha's club football closely before making that call, and he saw a player who could do more damage moving than standing still. Against Haiti, you saw exactly why. Goal 1. Brazil broke forward fast. Haiti's defense couldn't get set, and Cunha arrived in the box at the perfect moment to finish. No hesitation. He read the gap before anyone else did and attacked it. Goal 2 was even better. Vinicius slipped him through with a perfect pass, and Cunha made a diagonal run behind the defense that nobody picked up. 1 touch, clean finish, game basically over. 2 goals, 13 minutes. That's how fast he turned the match. And here's what the highlight reels won't show you. Every time Cunha dropped off the front line, a Haiti defender had to make a choice. Follow him and open a gap in behind, or stay put and let him turn with time on the ball. Either way, Brazil won that battle. That's also why his partnership with Vinicius worked so well. Vinicius needs the player ahead of him to pull defenders out of position, and Cunha does exactly that. Both goals came through that connection. By halftime, Cunha had scored twice, and Brazil were already in control. After a flat draw against Morocco in the opener, this was the response they needed. So this is the version of Matheus Cunha that earned Ancelotti's trust. Not a striker who waits for chances, a forward who creates them out of nothing. But to understand how rare this performance really is, you need to go back further, because a few years ago, nobody would have predicted this player would ever lead Brazil's attack at a World Cup. Matheus Cunha was born in Paraíba, Brazil, and like most kids there, football was the only language that mattered. By age 14, he had already left home, moving almost 2,000 miles to join Coritiba's academy. That's young to leave your family behind, but Coritiba had one of the most respected youth systems in Brazil, and Cunha fit right in. He stood out as an attacker who could play across the entire front line. Not just one position, quick feet, sharp instincts, comfortable anywhere near the goal. His breakout moment came at the Dallas Cup, one of the biggest youth tournaments in the world. Scouts from Europe don't usually pay attention to under-19 football in Texas, but Cunha's performances there were impossible to ignore. By the time he played against Manchester United's youth side in 2017, his name was already on lists across Europe. Most Brazilian teenagers with that kind of attention dream of one path: a direct move to Spain, England, or one of the giant clubs. Cunha took a different road. At 18, he signed for FC Sion in Switzerland. Not the obvious choice, but it turned out to be exactly right. Sion gave him freedom. He wasn't boxed into one position. He could drop deep, run at defenders, combine with teammates, and finish chances himself. In his first season in Europe, at just 18 years old, he scored 10 league goals in 29 appearances. For a teenager adjusting to a new continent, a new language, and a new style of football, that's a serious return. But the goals only tell half the story. What scouts noticed was how he scored them. He could beat a man one-on-one, he could finish with either foot, he could drop into midfield, turn past a defender, and still arrive in the box on time. That combination is rare at any age, let alone 18. Then came the moment that put his name on every scouting report in Europe. In May 2018, a match against Thun. Cunha scored a hat-trick in a 4-1 win, the kind of performance that doesn't just win a game, it changes a career. By the end of that season, clubs across Europe were tracking him. His dribbling, his pace, his eye for goal, all of it pointed toward a player ready for a bigger stage. RB Leipzig made their move. They paid around 15 million euros for him, a huge fee for a player who had been in Switzerland for just 1 year. On paper, it looked like the perfect next step, a talented young Brazilian joining one of Germany's most exciting clubs, ready to keep climbing. But football doesn't always work the way it looks on paper, and what happened next at Leipzig is where Cunha's career nearly went off track. At Sion, Cunha was never a pure striker. He was a free attacker. Drop deep, get the ball, turn, run at defenders, create something out of nothing. That freedom is what made him dangerous. Leipzig didn't use him that way. They played him as a central number 9. Stay high, hold the line, wait for service, finish chances inside the box. On paper, that made sense. He had the tools to become a complete forward, but it ignored the thing that actually made him good. A striker who waits for the ball needs service and space. Cunha needed touches and freedom, isolated against center backs with no room to drop and create. His biggest weapon disappeared. His first season showed it. Over 30 appearances across all competitions, but only 2 goals in the Bundesliga. Add the cup and European games, and he finished with 9 goals and 3 assists total. Respectable numbers for a squad player. Not what people expected from a striker bought for 15 million euros. Then Julian Nagelsmann arrived and things got harder, not easier. Nagelsmann built one of the most exciting tactical sides in Europe at the time. He liked versatile attackers who could play multiple roles. That should have suited Cunha, but Leipzig already had a deep squad competing for those same spots, and Cunha found himself fighting for minutes instead of building rhythm. Half a season under Nagelsmann was enough. Cunha needed game time, not a place on the bench. In January 2020, he left Leipzig and joined Hertha Berlin. At the time, it looked like a step down, a struggling Bundesliga side, far from the ambition of Leipzig. But it turned out to be the move that saved his career, because at Hertha, nobody asked him to be a number 9 anymore. At Hertha Berlin, Cunha got his identity back. No more standing between center backs waiting for a cross. He could drop into midfield, drift into the half spaces, carry the ball forward, and attack defenders one-on-one again. This was the player from Sion, finally allowed to exist in Germany. The biggest change was his positioning. At Leipzig, defenders could ignore him because he stayed in one place. At Hertha, he became a problem they couldn't solve. Follow him deep, and he drags a center back out of position. Stay back, and he turns and runs straight at the goal. There was no good answer for mocking him anymore. That unpredictability changed everything. He wasn't just finishing chances, he was the one creating them. In around 40 matches for Hertha, Cunha had a hand in 23 goals, 13 of his own, and 10 assists. For a team battling relegation most seasons, that's not just good. That's a player carrying an attack on his back. What stood out wasn't only the output, it was how he got there. He could receive the ball with defenders right on top of him, spin away in one motion, and drive forward through midfield, like the ball was glued to his foot. When Hertha had nothing going forward, Cunha was the player they turned to. His form on the pitch wasn't the only thing building his reputation. That summer, he joined Brazil for the Tokyo Olympics and scored 3 goals as they won gold. A different stage, a different pressure, and he delivered there too. By now, Europe's bigger clubs were paying attention again. Not as a striker this time, as something more dangerous, a player who could operate as a forward, a winger, or an attacking midfielder. In 2021, Atlético Madrid made their move, somewhere between 26 and 30 million euros, and Cunha was heading to Spain. This felt like the right fit, a club that saw his versatility, not just his finishing. But Cunha was about to run into the exact same problem he thought he'd left behind in Germany. Diego Simeone doesn't build his teams around freedom. He builds them around structure, discipline, and forwards who work themselves into the ground without the ball. Every player has a job, and that job rarely changes. For Cunha, that was a problem from the start. His best football came from dropping deep, receiving the ball, turning, and running at defenders. That's what worked at Hertha. But at Atletico, he was pushed closer to the striker role again. Stay high, occupy the box, wait for service. The exact setup that limited him at Leipzig. When Cunha had fewer touches, he had less influence. And under Simeone, a forward who doesn't influence the game doesn't stay in the side for long. To be fair, his first season had moments. 7 goals and 4 assists in 37 appearances, enough to show glimpses of why Atletico signed him. But Atletico is a club with almost no room for error, and Simeone needed players he could trust every single week. Cunha was still searching for consistency, and that searching cost him. Then Antoine Griezmann came back. Before that, there was a possible role for Cunha behind the striker, connecting midfield to attack. Griezmann's return closed that door. He could create, score, press, and defend. Everything Simeone wanted in one player. And with João Felix also occupying that same creative space, Cunha had nowhere left to go. So he got pushed back to the striker position, the one role that had already failed him once before. By the 2022-23 season, his place in the team was gone. Just 2 La Liga starts before the exit door opened. Atletico needed to balance the squad, and Cunha, still holding decent market value, became the player they could move on. In January 2023, he went out on loan to Wolverhampton Wanderers, with an obligation to make the deal permanent if certain conditions were met. Nobody saw this as a big move, a struggling Brazilian talent dropping into a mid-table Premier League club. Most people expected this to be the moment his career quietly faded. It became the opposite. When Wolves signed Cunha in January 2023, almost nobody expected much. A loan from Atletico, a player who had just spent a season barely getting starts, joining a club fighting nearer the bottom of the table than the top. To most people, this looked like the end of his big club dream. But Wolves did something simple. They let him be himself. No more forcing him into a fixed striker role. He could start from the left, drift inside, drop deep, and carry the ball forward whenever he wanted. That was the same freedom that brought him back to life at Hertha. His first months weren't spectacular. Just 2 goals in that half season. But the signs were there. The dribbling, the confidence, the way he kept finding pockets of space. The talent never left. He just needed time to trust it again. The 2023-24 season is where everything clicked. Cunha became Wolves' main attacking threat. 14 goals and 8 assists in 36 appearances across all competitions. And remember, this wasn't a Wolves side dominating games. They had to fight for results most weeks, which meant Cunha had to create his own chances instead of feeding off a dominant team. He became the player Wolves turned to when they needed something out of nothing. Then he went even further. In 2024-25, he hit 17 goals and 6 assists across all competitions. Not just flashes of brilliance anymore. Genuine end product week after week. What changed wasn't his talent. He always had that. What changed was his decision-making, knowing when to dribble and when to pass, knowing which run to make and when to hold his position. The kind of maturity that takes years to build, and Cunha finally had it. That maturity is exactly what caught Manchester United's attention. United didn't see a flashy Brazilian winger anymore. They saw a forward who could score, create, and carry a team on bad days, not just good ones. United moved for him and triggered his release clause. Look at the pattern here. At Leipzig, he was forced into the wrong shape. At Atletico, Simeone's system buried him. At Wolves, he finally got the freedom to play his way. And the moment he got that freedom back, the player everyone saw at Sion all those years ago finally returned for good. Manchester United wasn't the easy fix everyone hoped for. Under Ruben Amorim, the team struggled to find any rhythm, and Cunha struggled with them. Then Carrick came in, and the picture started to shift. Cunha looked freer again, more involved, more dangerous, closer to the player Wolves fans had watched for 2 seasons. It wasn't a complete transformation overnight, but the direction was clear. He was finding his rhythm inside a team that finally gave him room to play his way. And that form did something bigger than just helping his club. It got him picked for Brazil. Think about where this started. A kid who once cried after getting rejected by his own national team. Years of being overlooked. While players with bigger names took the spotlight. Now that same player is starting for Brazil at a World Cup, scoring twice in 13 minutes against Haiti. Not picked because of reputation. Picked because Ancelotti studied his game and trusted what he saw. That's the story underneath every goal he scores in this tournament. A player who got shaped into the wrong role at Leipzig. Buried behind bigger names at Atletico. Almost written off before Wolves gave him the freedom to be himself again. Every club that tried to force him into a box got an average version of Cunha. Every club that let him be free got a player capable of carrying a team. Brazil now has the second version. And at this World Cup, that might be exactly what they need. From a kid Brazil once turned away to the man leading their line at a World Cup. That's not luck. That's what happens when a player finally finds a coach who plays him the right way. This is how Cunha turned his career around. Thank you for watching.